What's up, War Report family? I am your. What's up, War Report family? It's your boy C Dub. Is Auburn the 13th best program in the SEC? Well, Pro Football Focus seems to think so. So I ask, are they onto something, or is this a classic case where even the professionals get it flat out wrong? B. Will and Ike Jones join me to weigh in, and we may actually put our list together of our own live for you guys. We definitely want to hear your opinions as we discuss this on today's Weekend Tailgate.
This is the Weekend Tailgate. Brought to you by Golden Cast Iron. C-Dub. Ike Jones. B-Will. Mike G. You are now listening to.
Yep. Happy Sunday, everyone, and welcome to the latest Weekend Tailgate. We want to thank you guys for hanging out with us as this show is brought to you by our latest and newest show sponsor, Golden's Cast Iron Skillet. With them, you get to work out, grill out, and ultimately chill out. We want to thank them for being our latest sponsor and for rocking with us. And we want to thank you guys for chilling out with us. Do us a favor. We're in great gratitude and a debt to you guys if you were to share this video on social media. Also, smash that like button and subscribe to those of you who are new to the channel. Ike, tell the people how they can get a green name, become a part of that gang, as well as access some of the film review that you've been doing this offseason.
It's really simple. You click the join button down there on the channel, and it allows you access to all of the wonderful things we've got coming up for you this summer. See, I already mentioned the film review. We are going with that strong every week, dropping new film on different players and different things involving Auburn sports. Make sure that you are locked in with that. Patrons get that on demand. Every member, though, can hop on board the live stream when we're doing that, usually on Thursdays. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership, you could do that right now from the live chat. We appreciate everybody who continues to support us in that way. Giving away another mug today, hashtag get your weight up. So go ahead and drop that in the live chat if you want to be a part of the drawing today to potentially get yourself a War Report mug. And then, as always, with Golden's Cast Iron, make sure that you guys are locked in with the fact that you can get a little something off of your purchase when you go and purchase at their website, goldenscastiron.com. 15% off of weights using the code Get Your Weight Up and code TWR for $65 off of your fire pits and or your Komodo grill, whichever you decide to do with that.
Gentlemen, let's get into it. Let's not waste any time. Pro Football Focus recently released what it was its rankings for 131 teams, but out of that came a tweet that basically put together its power rankings for the SEC teams. Little shocked or surprised to see where Auburn landed as it relates to other teams in the SEC and where they landed. We could pull it up and see what that looks like, shall we? So, without further ado, this is Pro Football Focus SEC Power Ranking, starting with number 1, Georgia, number 2, Alabama, number 3, LSU. And by the way, LSU, out of 131 teams, came in 8th. Behind them was Tennessee, which came in at 9th and 4th in the power rankings. Florida was ranked 14th. Out of 131 teams, coming in at 5. Arkansas was 18th, coming in at number 6 in the power rankings. Kentucky was ranked 22nd, coming in at 7. Kentucky was 19th, coming in at 7th. South Carolina was 22nd, coming in at number 8 in the power rankings. 23rd in the nation was Mississippi State, coming in at 9. From there, you had Texas A&M coming in, was the 28th team. They came in the power rankings at 10. Missouri, 33rd in the nation, coming in at 11. And Auburn, Ole Miss, rather, coming in at 34th in the nation, 12th overall in the power rankings. Auburn came in at 40th in the nation, coming in at 13th. and Vandy at 84, coming in last in the SEC Power Rankings. Initial thoughts, B. Will, I pass it to you. You look disgusted. Initial thoughts here.
We looked at Florida's schedule to determine the number of wins that we thought they would have on the season, and we couldn't find 6 as a unit. We couldn't agree on 6 wins on Florida's schedule. But they're the 5th best team in the conference. And what was the number in the nation that PFF has?
14th. 14th. Now, we swear by Pro Football Focus now. A lot of these evaluations are individual players. But
Pro Football Focus is the only place that's doing these evaluations in a numeric fashion for us to look at.
Fair enough.
Right. That's true. It's not that we swear by their data because we have no other way to standardize our evaluations of performances of teams, players, and units. We have no other way of doing it. We could say, hey, what was a QB's passer rating or QBR? But outside of that, we can't see every offensive line play to say, oh, that offensive line was good. That tight end played well, or that running back picked up all his assignments. We don't know. They supposedly graded, so we use them as a metric for that. That don't mean I agree with this shit right here. What the hell is this? I still can't see 6 wins on Florida's schedule, but they're 14th in the nation. Arkansas loses everything that was good about them the previous year. It leaves the next year, and you're expecting them to just I'm having a really hard time here. I don't know how they got here.
So what they're saying is Florida will lose their first round draft pick and actually get better.
I mean, that's not even a stretch because he didn't look like he was 100% executing their offense.
You saw what their QBs look like in spring, though, right?
And that's why we couldn't pick 6 wins. It's not a stretch that they could get better after Richardson, because if you have something that you have players that are now there to execute exactly what you want, then sure, you can be better than having an Anthony Richardson who, like Kenny B tell it on the Amen Corner podcast, was protecting himself for his draft status going into the NFL draft. He wasn't willing to do a whole bunch of running. He wasn't willing to do everything that the offense required. He was just trying to be productive enough to get drafted, and he did a very good job of that, apparently. But still, Florida's schedule is tough enough that how are you, even if you put them 14th, let's not worry about their rank in the conference for a second. How is Florida 14th and their over-under is like 5.5? How is that possible? I get Pro Football Focus isn't making the Las Vegas lines. Who in Pro Football Focus said, I can definitely see them winning 7 to 8 games, 8 games at least to be ended up ranked 14th in the country? For them to be the 14th ranked team in the country, they got to win like 8 games, right? There's no 7-5 team that's going to be ranked 14th at the end of the year. So what games are they going to win? How many of those games are they winning? And what do you see them winning it with? Do their players grade out that well over the course of last season that the ones came back said, oh, he's definitely going to kill it. He's definitely going to kill it. What do they know that I don't know? Because I don't see it.
I'm assuming that they're going off of the average player grade that they have accumulated for each of these guys, including the transfers that came into the program. But I don't know how they're projecting forward on guys who haven't played. Like, I honestly don't know where the numbers are coming from that allow them to get to this, but I'm assuming that it has to be like, we're going to take the average grade for all the players that we have on each of these teams and then force rank them based upon that. And if there's ties, we're going to break that tie with, I don't know. I
don't see it. I don't see it. The fact that Graham Mertz is their quarterback, to me, like you're bottom quarter of the league automatically. You are no higher than 10th in the conference with Graham Mertz at quarterback. I don't get this. This doesn't make any sense to me. Now, that's just Florida. Arkansas, again, I've got a problem with Arkansas being right there because everybody's so high on KJ Jefferson. Oh, and he's a 4th year. If KJ Jefferson was going to be a phenomenal quarterback and make a phenomenal jump, it would have happened between his 2021 and 2022 season. He's okay. He's a really big guy who can power run. He is okay. They were not phenomenally unstoppable. other than teams who had no defense. Did they run over us? Yes. Our run defense was terrible last year. They ran over BYU. Run defense was terrible last year. Liberty, who apparently, I don't know, our coaching staff isn't full of all-stars, but somehow our coaching staff found a way to go to Arkansas and hold them to under 20 points to beat them with a defensive line that, as we talked about last week, was the number one defensive line in the country last year at generating negative yards against opposing offenses. Arkansas can't just run against everybody. They've got a great running back. They've got a okay quarterback. And I don't know what else they got. Honestly, that's the extent of it. They had defensive problems all over the field. They lost a couple of very good defensive players who have been injury prone, weren't on the field a lot. But
we will hold on one moment. Put a pin right there.
Okay.
I can't read. So actually, Florida is actually 20th, which puts them behind Kentucky.
Oh,
so actually move everyone else up. So you can still go off on Arkansas. Continue your point.
Okay.
But Arkansas is now where Florida is at number 5. So continue, be well.
And that's just, I would actually, Florida and Arkansas are two sides of the same coin to me. They are. I don't have any. Arkansas has a slightly easier schedule, and they're probably slightly worse than Florida. Florida has more talent, but they have a harder schedule. I think they'll both end up somewhere between 5 and 7 wins. 7 wins being the ceiling for either one of those guys. I don't know how that gets you the top half of the conference, though. Like, top half of the conference, I guess is it possible that everybody's okay, so the top half of the conference includes some 7 and 5 teams? Perhaps. I just don't see it, man. I do not see it. I don't see it for Arkansas. I don't see it for Florida.
Arkansas, I mean, one of the things they're boasting with Arkansas is his run game. Obviously, KJ Jefferson is there, but they're loving Raheem Sanders, who is actually a pretty good back.
He is,
but they're relying on them to kind of be a power run team and really take advantage of opponents this year. That's what they're hanging their hat on.
Yeah, that works when you play teams that don't have the horses to stop it. And maybe there will be a few on Arkansas' schedule, but I also know a couple teams on Arkansas' schedule that aren't going for that. At least 3 or 4 that will just be built up front enough to go, nah, that's okay. That's not going to happen. And then you still have to have a good enough defense to stop the other teams who, even though they might not be strong enough to stop you up front, they can outscore you. KJ Jefferson, I know they like to make him Cam Newton, but he is not. We've seen that. We've experienced that firsthand. We beat them soundly 2 years ago, and last year, again, we had a lot of problems, but nothing about what I've seen from KJ Jefferson was just jaw-dropping to me. He's made some very good plays. He's okay. But if he was as good as Pro Football Folks and everybody else wants him to be, Arkansas would win more games. They would have won more games the last 2 seasons. He's not that guy. He's decent. He's not that guy. So I strongly disagree with Arkansas and Florida being in the top half of this 14 team ranking.
Ike.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't actually understand Bama being at number 2, to be honest with you.
I'm not, I'm glad you mentioned that. We're going to talk about our list. I'm not mad if you put sneak LSU in the end of number 2.
I would put LSU at number 2.
I wouldn't be mad at that. I'm not mad at that one.
So here, okay. So all right, let me pull this up because I read this and then because I was trying to figure out, okay, how did they get to what they got? Because they have Bama at number 2 overall, right?
Yes.
And they have a write-up on the top 25. And this is what they say about Alabama in their write-up. PFF says in their article, Alabama is coming off of a disappointing season for its standards by finishing 11-2 while missing the college football playoff. The Crimson Tide entered this year with 2 new coordinators and must replace 3 top 15 picks in the 2023 draft, one of them being quarterback Bryce Young, the first overall selection. Still, the last time head coach Nick Saban went consecutive years without making the college football playoff or BCS national championship was 2007, 2008, his first 2 years at the helm. Doubt him at your own risk. This seems to be solely based off of they ain't gonna be there 2 years in a row, right? Nothing you said here. They were disappointing last year. They got to replace a bunch of productivity. They have 2 new coordinators. But Nick Saban's the coach. They're not going to be that bad 2 years in a row.
Right.
That's literally you just wasted 2 paragraphs to say Nick Saban's the coach.
Without
Right.
any context, you would have thought a Bama fan wrote that one.
Yeah.
Right.
They're just basically just saying, but it's Bama with Nick Saban. Of course, they're the second best team in the country.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got LSU. Let me ask you this. I always like to pick on this program, but Ole Miss is at number 12.
Mm-hmm.
What's so interesting about this, Ike, is that Pro Football Focus also recently put out an article as the top 10 QB rooms in the nation. Ole Miss was number 4 on that list.
Wow.
So we know
Which
their
doesn't-
defense is really suspect.
Now I'm super confused then, because a lot of the stuff that they're giving people is based on their quarterback.
Right. So they're the top 4 QB room in the nation. We know their defense is not good, but they're somehow the 12th team in the SEC. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't understand it, because they're giving Mississippi State 23rd in the country. And most of, again, when you read what they say about them, has to do with the fact that they're returning the quarterback again,
Right.
who they think is really good.
Right.
But you literally know nothing else about this team.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
Like,
The
you know
same
what
way that
defense
you
they're
was-
going to run, but Zach
Right.
Arnett as the head coach, is he going to be good in that spot to
Right.
be able to keep them from messing up stuff on the offensive side? Is he going to be like a, hey, I ain't touching the offense, you go for it guy? But like, you don't know what kind of fourth down play caller or decision maker he's going to be as a coach. You don't know, he's going to be like, hey man, go for it, because I trust my defense type of thing, right? Like, you don't know any of that about him. So that's assuming a lot from Zach Garnett, who has not he's only coached one game as in the a bowl game. That was it.
Right. Right. There's so much that he hadn't been prepared for before last offseason that he's now going to be taking on, in addition to turning over all of those roster spots. Like, he had to turn into the chief recruiter for not only the defense, which he had been doing as the defense coordinator, but for the offense as well. They lost key wide receivers, key running backs. I don't know how. I know they actually lost at least one guy on the offensive line because he got drafted. I saw that. They've lost enough talent for this to okay, you're Mississippi State, though. You can't just reload. You're not built to reload like that. Mike Leach had a system and a promise of offense that attracted offensive linemen, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. You don't have that anymore. So people can come back, and maybe you could have pitched some guys to say, hey, you can play with Will Rogers 1 year. Okay, I'll sign up for that. He knows what he's doing. But is it the exact same offense still even?
No, it's not the same offense. And Will Rogers has always played in an air raid type system, even coming out of high school. This is his first new different system.
That's reason enough to question putting them. I'd have them in the bottom 4. And it's not even because I think, oh, they're the worst at everything. No, you changed way too much stuff.
You lost your top running back.
Nah, man.
Big time receiver.
Well, and I guess that's the thing that baffles me about Mississippi State, right? Like, when I look at what Auburn has and where they're ranked, or where we're ranked, right? Like, they have a lot of the same questions. That the only question that they don't have to answer that Auburn has to is who's going to be the starting quarterback. Like, literally everything else, they've got to answer all of those. They've lost most of their productivity on offense, and the defense, they're still trying to figure that out as far as returners. So I don't understand why they're ranked so high in the country, number 1, but then so high in the conference when they have so many unanswered questions.
Let's talk about Auburn. Let's talk about where they have Auburn. Auburn is pretty much the Vandy of the Western of the West Division, pretty
That's what
much.
the street's saying.
Obviously, there's question marks on this team. A lot of changes, new coaching staff. A lot of new players inserted into the offensive roster who we expect to contribute. But is that worst, almost next to worst in the SEC in you guys' opinion?
I mean, it's hard for me. It's hard for me with no bias to say absolutely not. But it's also hard for me to look at what some of these other teams are on paper and say that they're better than Auburn on paper. Again, because I'm assuming this is all based on paper, right? Like on paper, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like on paper, I think from a talent perspective and just from a coaching perspective. So again, let's take the Mississippi State scenario. On paper, you're telling me Mississippi State plus an unexperienced coach is that many steps ahead of Auburn on paper?
Right.
Like I don't get that. I don't understand that, because you at least have an experienced coach taking over the helm at Auburn and a bunch of guys on this team that are, whether they've done it at Auburn or not, are good at what they do.
Right. I think we've got the coaching advantage. We've got the coaching advantage definitely over Mississippi State at this point, over Ole Miss, whether y'all want to believe that or not. I mean, I think Lane Kiffin's a big name, but I don't think he's any more than a big name, to be honest with you. And I think that's going to be the story of his coaching career. But we can talk about that another day. Over Arkansas, I really like Sam Pittman. And I like T. Will. But top to bottom, you don't have the talent, especially on the offensive side anymore.
Arkansas loses Kendall Browse too.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Like you're telling me you lost one of the best offensive coordinators. I'd say maybe top 10, 15 offensive coordinators in the nation, and you're better? No, buddy. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying continuity, as I will say now and have continued to say forever. It's extremely important in football, man. You line up and you do something different than you did for the last year, 2 years under Kendall Browse. It makes a difference. Somebody's going to come in and ask you to do something different. They're going to have to learn what you're good at. You're going to have to learn what they want you to do. And it's going to take some time for you to get there. Now, teams like Arkansas, who aren't talent rich, you don't have time to figure it out before you face some teams that can beat you, because almost everybody on your schedule can beat you outside of a couple of cupcakes. You don't have this, my talent will just carry me, period, that a lot of teams have. If you're doing some new stuff and you don't really know what you're doing yet, you're going to lose. That's why lack of continuity at Arkansas, lack of continuity at Mississippi State. I guess he got continuity at Ole Miss. I think Lane Kiffin's just overrated. He just doesn't have the though. That's true. Oh, they got Pete Golding.
every time that light bulb comes on, and you realize who the DC at Ole Miss is.
Man, I keep forgetting that they got Pete Golding. It's like a Bama junkyard. It was like a bargain bin sale at Alabama because the fans had made enough noise to get him out of here. And Lane was like, sure, we'll get him. It's no problem. Oh, man. Yeah, that's going to be awful. Their defense wasn't good anyway. And they got a dude who couldn't put it together and create some lockdown defenses with the talent that Bama had. But I don't yeah, okay. Okay. This gonna be an interesting year for Lane and them. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think and there's a comment here I'm gonna get to. We're gonna get to a lot of you guys' comments, but I know Chris S says if Bama gets the benefit of the doubt for being Bama, Auburn should get the same. I think some of the benefit of the doubt is coming from obviously teams who have been successful, even if it's been recent, a one-off, or just years of success. And I think that's what you're seeing at the top two. Even with LSU, obviously you have expectations of Kelly taking LSU another step further. He took him to the SEC championship in year one. So obviously you're expecting them to improve and become cemented at the top. So I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at Tennessee. The way they went out, they went strong, even in the bowl game against Clemson, beating them. They had a strong 11-2 season, could have gotten to the playoff if it wasn't for that freak injury that caused them to drop that game. So I'm not mad at that. But what's questionable is how are your Kentuckys and your Florida? How are your Floridas getting the benefit of the doubt? How are these schools
South
getting
Carolina got the benefit of the doubt from them too, right? Like I didn't, man, bro. Like
that's what's questionable.
I understand the South Carolina thing.
I'm not mad at South Carolina. It's just I'm mad at Florida. I'm mad at Mississippi State.
It's the lack. This is the same problem I had. What was the last list that we were looking at when we were doing this?
I don't know. We look at so many this
time.
Oh,
it was the coach. It was the coaching ranking, right?
Right.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so if you're using this criteria, then I get it, right? But that criteria needs to be consistent throughout the entirety of the list. So if you're saying it is We're taking all of the talent evaluations that we did for all of the players, and we're putting that into some cumulative thing, and we're taking the average of all that and blah, blah, blah. And Auburn has the 13th ranked cumulative PFF average player rating of all the schools in the SEC. Fine. I don't believe that, and I haven't gone to look, right? So we can go run the numbers and we can see, and we can go look and we can see, okay, maybe that makes it make sense. If we're ranked number 13 in the SEC, based upon what you have as talent evaluation from what PFF does from their statistical analysis of how players do, blah, 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 then okay, it at least is objective, right? But then you have to make me believe that somehow LSU isn't on par with Bama. Like I don't believe that. Like I need to see the number, because LSU continually will have some of the best classes in the country.
Mhm.
They didn't turn over a lot of talent in this offseason as far as the portal is concerned.
Right.
And they have more continuity at the quarterback position. So
And
how
at
is
OC.
LSU below Alabama? That doesn't make sense to me.
Because Nick Saban. That's the answer.
Right. And so now if you're going to then give me subjective criteria, and this is where I get to my South Carolina conversation, South Carolina has a lot of subjectivity in their analysis of this, because they're talking about, oh, well, they beat Tennessee and Clemson at the end of the season. Tennessee's quarterback was hurt. It's not the same kind of situation.
Well, that he was hurt after that game was over. Like they were down triple.
Well, I mean, that's that.
Three
You're
scores.
right. You're right.
That game during that they got whooped before he got hurt.
He did get hurt during that game.
Yeah,
but I don't see South Carolina so let me go back a step though. From a talent perspective, if they were like neck and neck, and then you took the head-to-head last year and you were like, okay, well, this is why I'm gonna bump, but that's not what I'm seeing right here.
Right.
Like again, you're interjecting subjective criteria into it at some point in time.
Darius is saying, appreciate you, but he was like, if you're doing that, then Tennessee should be in front of LSU.
I mean, they should, because they stomped them last year. But Tennessee's got enough turnover,
which is a great point.
Tennessee has the momentum. They've had good recruiting momentum as well, but they've also had a good showing from Joe Milton late, right? That you can say,
so again, from a talent perspective, Tennessee shouldn't be this high on this list. I don't think so. Not with. Okay, well, that's me being subjective about Joe Milton, because I don't believe.
Right, I still don't believe it. The end of last season was smoke and mirrors in my head until I see different from Joe Milton.
He gonna show me something.
Yeah, buddy. You can't play like you did them first couple games of 2021. Never play again for a year and a half and come out and have a couple good games. As far as I'm concerned, what you are good at and not good at, they just haven't been scouting you because you haven't been playing. Give them a few games to scout you and get under your skin. We'll see what's up.
Okay. Listen, let's get to some of the comments here. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Good topic. PFF rates Auburn the 13th best SEC program. Trey Dern, we want to thank you for coming a member. Welcome, good sir. Bug Max says PFF is pure clickbait. Haley Tubb says 13th. We just saying stuff now. Cool. That's how I imagine you said that. Good to have you on with us, Haley. Mike Side says, I really enjoy the show. Sometimes I like to know y'all's connection to Auburn. Used to be a film guy for the team. It would be nice to know y'all's background with Auburn. Thanks for the great job. Actually, who's not here, Mike G, was actually kind of the film or recording practices for the Auburn football team during the Tuberville era in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. So that's his connection to Auburn, also a student. But at some point, all four of us met as part of a campus ministry, MIA Ministries in Action. And so that's how we got to know each other personally, but we were all former Auburn students during the early 2000s.
Yes.
So that's kind of our relation to Auburn. And actually, Ike, you worked at the stadium during games?
Yep, I was.
That's right.
Yeah, I was working at the suites as a host up there on game days in Jordan-Hare. So,
and
did that for 2-3 seasons. I don't even remember now, but yeah, for most of my time there.
And B. Will, also, not only were you a student, but you were also an employee of Auburn University.
Yeah, I worked.
As well.
I was a student at Foy. For all y'all that remember Foy, which gave way later to the Student Center, which I worked at both. I was a student employee at Foy, and then was done with undergrad and went right to working full time for the university at the Student Center, running events, audiovisual, stuff like that. So yeah, we been down there, was down there a long time. And so I never left Auburn. I still live here, love it here. And yeah, that's how we know each other, and that's how we stay connected.
And coming down into Auburn, so beautiful, like just to see how it's developed and it's changed since
they've done a really good job, man. A really good job.
Yeah, Auburn is an amazing place. It was already an amazing place, but just looking at the growth of it, it's wow. Juice Heist, PFF is putting a lot of faith in Kentucky. Fool's gold.
Yeah, so here's the thing about Kentucky that's interesting to me. I knew Will Levis wasn't an all-world quarterback. They were kind of hyping him up because Kentucky had a really good season in 2021. Some of that was the OC that he had. And the reason they looked so much worse in 2022 was that OC went, I think he went back to the NFL. If I remember correctly, he is who was the coach of the Los Angeles Rams? The head coach, McVay. Mm-hmm. He was a McVay disciple, so an assistant there. And he came and he started working for Kentucky. He went to Penn State first, if I'm not mistaken, and then he went to Kentucky. And that's when Will Levis got his first start, 2021. That guy left and went elsewhere. I don't want to say exactly where because I don't know for sure. And then they got significantly worse. But a part of that was also they had really bad O-line play in Kentucky, which is not usual for Kentucky because they usually play great along the offensive line. They did not have a great offensive line year last year. I don't know more than who the quarterback is because I think, honestly, Devin Leary, based on the hype and the metrics that I've read about him, and Will Levis, they're probably equally as good. Are they equally as good pro prospects? No, that's not what I'm saying because Leary doesn't have the size and stature that Levis does, that pros love. But as far as effectiveness in a game, yes, I think they're comparable. So I don't think they took a step back at Kentucky. I don't think they took a step forward either necessarily. I think the biggest difference is that OC is coming back. They did a year without him. They were like, no, listen, we can't do it. Please come back. I'm pretty sure you got a nice little pay bump or something. That OC is back, but did they fix the offensive line? We can talk about offensive coordinators and quarterbacks all day, but we've seen here at Auburn between 2018 and 2022, you ain't doing jack without an offensive line, buddy. Like you can't. You can do something. You're not winning more than 9 games. Like that's probably your ceiling unless your offensive line is good. So did they fix that? I don't know because I don't follow Kentucky recruiting. I'm assuming that they're expecting a lot. Like maybe they know they're the talent that Kentucky is bringing. Maybe they got a Kentucky guy that's covering Kentucky and that knows as much about their recruiting situation as we know about ours. And says, "You look, they brought in this guy and that guy, and they got a guy that was redshirted last year. He's going to be great. Cool. Okay, you think their offensive line is going to be better? Cool. I know that they lost a great running back in Rodriguez, who made something out of nothing a lot with that line last year. They lost Cavassier Smoke. I don't know what they see in Kentucky other than here's a quarterback that isn't as bad as it would have been for them if they had to start over. So maybe between that and the OC, they think they'll make some magic. But no, I am with you. I don't think Kentucky is top half of the conference next year. I don't think they finish 7th or better. I think they finish 8th or worse as far as conference record next year.
Conference record. Okay.
Yes.
That's fair. They have a very weak non-conference schedule. They could very easily go 8-4. They look like they can finish about 500 in the SEC. Right, I think they can go 4-4 in the SEC, but that would put you, depending on how this works, this puts you right around that 7 mark. I don't know about 6, but it puts you kind of right around in that little neighborhood. And we'll talk about that. Yeah. We'll talk about that when we start putting together lists, because when we start looking at each individual team, and I think we, in a previous live that we did, we were kind of looking at what we think they could do this year. There were a lot of 7-5s. There were a lot of 6-6. I think we did the over on what Vegas had predicted for them in terms of wins. There was a lot of 7-win teams, maybe 8. There was a lot of those teams. So that'll put you right in that little middle section right there. So we'll definitely break that down further. All right. Appreciate that, Juice Heist. 22 Busy says power rankings have nothing to do with records. I agree. It has everything to do
Obviously.
with it's June and we got to put some content out.
Yeah.
That's what it has to do with. And it helps us to talk about it.
Yeah,
Chris S says, to be fair, they always say Bama can't reload this year, and somehow they always end back up on top.
Well, I mean, they always reload.
But again, my problem is not that you want to give Bama my problem is that you want to give Bama the benefit of the doubt. It's that everything else that you said about them was like, they got a lot of questions to answer, but it's Nick Saban.
There was no analysis.
Right. So if that's the way that we're going to do this, then let's just be subjective then. Like, is it an objective list based upon data and analysis, or is it a subjective list based upon, well, it is Bama, so they must be the number 2 team power ranking wise in the country because Nick Saban. And if that's what we're doing, then yeah, of course, like, yeah, let's just throw stuff on the wall and see what sticks. Nick Saban.
Right.
All right.
Right. And to Chris S, because I know you said Bama always seems to reload, right? I am working on a very sneaky, low-key Bama slander theorem that says
low-key
is Bama slander.
Okay.
Is Nick Saban is Kirby Smart better than Nick Saban as a head coach? And the reason why is that when Nick Saban entered the SEC, there were no monsters in the SEC. He got to get here and build the monster fresh off the NFL, which is still admirable. Like, again, Nick Saban gets a lot of credit for a lot of things. I think the thing he deserves credit the most for is building the program, literally the program, not X's and O's. I've never thought he was good at that. Building the program that generated the type of results he did when he first got here in 2007. However, there were no monsters to slay. LSU was always talented.
Florida.
That, well, as we know now, that was
Florida team.
That was about to end no matter what. I don't think he did that. I think that was going to self-destruct no matter what.
I mean, they were winning a champion. They were winning championships.
Yeah, I'd say the LSU and those Florida teams were probably the best teams in the conference during that time.
Yeah,
they were. And what I mean by monsters, though, are where everything was clicking and they were unstoppable, or did LSU and Florida just have stupid amounts of talent that made them the best teams, much more talented? And I say that because Georgia was extremely talented as well, but it seemed that they didn't really have the coach to get them over the top.
Fair.
The combination of coach and talent is something that Alabama was the first team to put together completely. Like, Les Miles was a mediocre coach, but the talent was
that's why I would still say Florida, because that Urban Meyer coaching situation.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. But as soon as that talent left, it all fell apart. Like that was it. Whether they left because, they stole a laptop, or they left because they graduated after 2 Heismans, or they left because they went to the NFL. Once the bulk of that talent left, that was the end of the Florida run. So both talent and coaching, it was Florida. And then Nick Saban got there, and he really did it better and sustained it better, because I think he's a better program manager than Urban Meyer is. And I think that's evident at this point in the game. So what I'm saying is Kirby Smart has to slay a giant in Alabama that Alabama didn't have to slay. And Alabama didn't just self-destruct like Florida did. Like, they've been on the block. When you can slay the giant on his watch, which is like, we talk about, this is way off topic. I'm sorry, y'all. I love y'all so much. When you're talking about winning rings in the NBA, right? And people say, oh, well, nobody won a ring on Jordan's watch. That's why he's the GOAT. I mean, Jordan's the GOAT for many reasons. That's one of the reasons. How can LeBron be the biggest bully?
Do you hear that, Kenny?
How can LeBron be the GOAT if everybody's winning rings while he's on the clock? It's like a security guard sitting and looking at the monitor like, hey, man, they stealing stuff. That's a shame. You going to do something about it? Why are you even employed here? Get out of here. Kirby is winning while Clemson is up, while Bama is up.
Listening to the number of LeBron fans who are triggered right now.
Yeah, I know, right?
I thought I heard something.
Because the next time, and this is, again, to bolster my case, the next time a coach and talent situation popped up, they beat Bama, Clemson. The very next time any combination of coach and talent, where they're both there at the same time, Nick Saban is like 500 maybe against these teams where they actually have it together. If it's a one-off, then yeah, like any team can get lucky every other few years. Auburn did it. Sure, we had our time and moment in 2013 and then again kind of in 2017, but a consistent bully on the block, can you bully that bully? Kirby has done that. He's beaten Clemson. Well, they weren't even great last year, but he's done that. He's beaten what's the name? Baker Mayfield and whatever. They were flash in the pan, but Lincoln Riley, he had something cooking there, but he's beaten them, and he's beaten Bama. And he's done it back to back in an era where there were much more talented teams and coach combinations than there were in 2011 and 2012. That's all I'm saying. Are there other bullies on the block? No. Well, no wonder you were winning everything. If there are bullies on the block and you are now the big bully on the block, I think that's more impressive. I think a lot more of that of Kirby Smart for that reason. And to circle all that back to Chris's comment, it's not that Bama can't reload. They have never dropped out of the top 3 in talent, but have they looked like a top 3 team the last 4 years? 5, 6, right? They still getting run out of the playoffs by Clemson in 2018. That was 6 years ago. They got skunked, like past the sticks, like your opponent has disconnected, beaten by Clemson in a playoff. They used to be hallowed territory for Nick Saban. Y'all remember, like, don't give Nick Saban this many weeks, like it mattered. That wasn't a real thing. The thing was he had way more talent than everybody. In Notre Dame, like Notre Dame in 2012 was a fair matchup. That wasn't a fair matchup, but y'all tried to make it a fair matchup, the media and stuff. Oh, give Nick Saban this time. No, give him that much more talent.
You got to sell tickets and get.
I know they got to sell
Come
tickets.
on, man.
I know it. I know it.
Be fair.
But all I'm saying was 2012, the closest competition was Mark Richt in Georgia, and that was definitely the national championship game between Bama and Georgia. It was a great game. Mark Richt was not that coach, though. Talent, Georgia always had it. Mark Richt wasn't that coach. The minute Clemson got on the block, they started taking Bama's lunch. That's all I'm saying. Nick Saban has not slayed the Giants nearly as much as Kirby has in his current iteration. And that's why I don't think it's as simple as Bama reloading. It can't just be talent.
As of the past 4 years, you mean?
Right. They beat him in 2017. Granted, and I still think that was a miraculous turn of events. I think that was kind of lucky too. I do. I didn't game plan for your backup quarterback. How could I stop you? But Jalen Hurts, they were doing diddly squat up until with Jalen Hurts in the game. Kirby was prepared for one guy. I don't think it was a good thing you had a quarterback that was competent in your back pocket. Yes, it was. Nick Saban ain't bullying the bullies, man. He never has. I said it was going to be short. I went around the block.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna let you get off on that. I don't have any rebuttals necessarily. I have a lot of rebuttals to this nonsense LeBron stuff people are saying in the comments, but we're not going there.
We're not going there. Going there. We're gonna keep it with Auburn. Bankroll Blockade says LSU really number one. They actually know who their QB is. Referring to these other schools here that are up the top: Georgia, Alabama. Darius comes back and says number 5 through number 13 is a toss-up. More on that later. He actually is echoing some of my sentiments when we begin to put together a list of our own. James Barnett says, "Fellas, is it fair to always factor in the number of five-star players you have to determine this?" I say that because the last couple of college football playoff teams didn't have many 5 stars.
I think the people making these lists they will say, oh, they've been recruiting great and they got this much talent. And I do think there's something to that if the coach has proven that he can put that talent in a very good position to thrive, that they can identify and develop that talent into being the best it can be. Then you can say for sure. I think you can give Georgia the benefit of that doubt. Less so with Alabama these days, because honestly, man, I don't know. It's a couple like, what's his name? Kool-Aid McKinstry, right? 5-star. I remember his recruitment. Like now we're getting to the point where we're old enough where we remember the recruitment of these guys. So for it to be draft night and then those guys either are going undrafted or drafted very late, it's like, I don't know, Nick, what's going on, buddy? It used to be a sure thing. Bama, y'all gonna win so many games and you go in the first couple of rounds, but not no more. So I say I think you have to give it to Kirby in that sense that yes, everybody he's bringing in, they're going first couple of rounds, even with disciplinary issues. They're going first couple of rounds. Other teams like Texas A&M, you see how low they are here? That's a situation where the coach makes players worse. And I think we've seen that's evident from the last couple of years. It doesn't matter how good the talent is when they get there. The coach cannot put players in position to succeed, can't develop those players to be better players. So they're low. And I think them being ranked number 10 is kind of indicative of that. They're like, yeah, Jimbo ain't it. We know y'all got 5 stars, but you ain't it. So yeah, they take some shine off of Texas A&M.
His offense is such disarray. It's hard. I mean, it's almost the complaint we begin to develop of Gus is like your offense is so unproductive. It's hard for any kid, regardless of talent, to flourish there. But he got an OC, right?
He got an OC. Again, I want to hate Jimbo a lot, but I got to see what Petrino's going to do for him, man. He might make him look better this year.
We'll see. Eric Pearson says we all just need to take a chill pill. These preseason prognosticators don't have a clue. They're all outsiders looking in from a distance. If they were credible, they'd be Powerball winners. I agree, Eric. I agree 100%.
Hey, man, listen. Nobody knows. This sports is the thing that so many people get wrong so often. I think it's funny when we all try to hold people accountable for wrong picks. Like, listen, man, if I was really that good at picking stuff, I would be doing this show live from my flat in Las Vegas, because I would be a professional gambler. I'd be picking winners, winning 60% of my bets. And I don't know, I guess it'd be 120 degrees out. And that's the difference. It's so hard to get this stuff right consistently. So yeah, a lot of them are guessing. The conversation is fun. The content is fun to talk about. But
the fact that they got us talking about it,
yeah,
it's a win for them.
Yeah.
So Rocky Raccoon says, I believe we are so low because of the many new players and a lot of unanswered questions at skill positions. But again, I think this plays into Ike's point. I don't think Auburn is the only program in the SEC with a lot of new players in skill positions.
Yeah.
So I think that's what makes it egregious when you look at who is ranked ahead of us and how far ahead of us they're ranked ahead of us.
Yeah.
With the same types of issues, new coaches and everything. So, yeah, good talk, good conversation. We thank you guys for that. When we come back from the break, we're actually going to put together our list of where these teams might actually stand. We're going to start with me, since I'm usually the one putting together rankings. They're going to take apart my rankings and where these teams are and give their thoughts. We definitely want to hear from you as well. But for now, guys, help us out. Share this content on social media so that people can access this and get in on the conversation themselves. Also, we want you to smash that like button and subscribe to those of you who are new to our channel. Let's pay some bills and acknowledge our show sponsors.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Harmon Mechanical, a heating and air company offering premier service to the Auburn area and surrounding areas. Give them a call at 334-219-0717 or head over to their website at harmonmechanical.com. Let them know the War Report sent you. Harmon Mechanical. We're there when you need air. And our giveaway sponsor, GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you want the best in the business at restaurant logistics, head over to GWT2Energy.com. As always, thank you to the sponsors of the War Report. Thank you to those of you who have become members of the War Report. If you want to get on board with that, just click the join button. There's so many benefits. You see them right there on the screen. We're doing a lot of film review. We'll be doing more of that as we get into the season. We're going to have so many great benefits during the season for those of you who are members. That means like during the halftime and post game, the members are the only ones to get to jump into the chat when we do those, right? We're going to be giving away tickets to every game. That's going to be something that's a members exclusive situation as well. So you want to be a member of the War Report. We are going to get this thing cranked up. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership, you can do that right now from the live chat. Let someone else have the gift of the War Report. 1 month free on you. We're giving away stuff as always, doing the mug hashtag get your weight up. We'll be doing that drawing here in just a little bit. So make sure you get your hashtags in. Mike ain't doing the drawing, so that means I'm not waiting all this nonsense. Let me just give a couple more. You had an hour to put the hashtag in. Nobody want to give you no extra 30 seconds. Bump all that. We get into the money. Sorry. The Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, is where you can find all of your podcast situations. Some news on the podcast front coming up for you guys very soon. Excited to talk about that. So make sure you guys get locked in right there. And then once again, make sure you head over to our title sponsor, goldenscastiron.com. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off of any of their weights. That's kettlebells and dumbbells. You can get $65 off of a fire pit and a Komodo grill using the code TWR. Yeah.
All right, guys. Now we have our rankings we're going to put together, specifically mine. Okay. So I agreed to be the sacrificial lamb. You guys can take apart mine, but here's how
But you
I
do, of
have
course,
it
during the season. That's the only reason we, C-Dubs rankings is a
Yeah. This is kind of how I see these teams going into the season based on what I think they'll do. I'm factoring in their schedule, who they meet head to head. Here goes. All right. So to Ike's point, I was struggling with 2 and 3. I end up choosing Alabama at 2 because I think at the point where Alabama faces, and by the way, I love the pettiness with Ike. I love the petty.
Always
Petty when it comes to Alabama. You gotta have a sharp eye for it. But yes, they get low caps all day, every day. I'm not sure if, and I think we talked about this when we did the over and under. I wasn't sure about LSU going on the road and beating Bama in Tuscaloosa in a revenge game. And
fair.
Considering how late in the season they play them, whatever concerns and issues that Bama has offensively, they somehow manage to figure it out as the season goes on. If this was an earlier game, I would probably lean LSU, and I think that game ultimately determines who will be ranked ahead of of each other. So I'm going to go with Bama on this one in the meantime, but again, that's a close 2 and 3 as far as I'm concerned. I got Tennessee behind them, but I think after Tennessee, to one of the previous posters' points, I think from 5 to about 9, it really is a toss-up because you're talking about teams that are in that 8-4, 7-5 range who are facing each other, who could easily jump each other 1 or 2 spots based off head-to-head matchups, because you're really talking about a game separating these teams in this little group here. When I look at South Carolina's record, or not record, when I look at their schedule, a lot like last year, they had a pretty decent schedule. Like, it wasn't really tough, and it's not really crazy this year when I look at their schedule. So I like South Carolina just off of that. I think that they will finish with a winning conference record. So I have them kind of higher up, but of course it could be, you just never know. A&M, I think, bounces back this year. I think they do bounce back. I do think they probably end up around that 500, maybe 5-3, maybe in conference record. Of course, the game against us, the last game in September, will really tell us a lot about how this season could potentially go. I think before they play us, I think they have Miami in week 2 on the road. So that's another game to watch out. That's not a conference game, but at least you kind of get a feel for what kind of Texas A&M team we're looking at. First conference game with us on the road against them. That's going to tell us a lot about both of those programs. It's kind of a toss-up for me. I don't know. But I think A&M bounces back this year, especially seeing as though their biggest issue has been offense. And I do think with having someone else at the helm calling plays, it's a fresh start for them. I do think some of those games where they struggled moving the ball, they will move the ball, and I think it'll make a difference. I got them a little bit higher this year. Kentucky, I got them around 7. I dropped them 1 spot because I do think this is kind of where Kentucky's been living over the past several years anyway. And to B's point, I think Devin Leary kind of keeps them at number 7. I don't think they take a step forward necessarily in the upcoming season. So I got them at 7. I moved Auburn from 13 all the way up to 8. They could go higher, but I think in year 1, a lot of people I had them going over, winning 7 games, maybe 8. I know a lot of people are really bullish on Auburn. They could win 9 or 10, but I got them around that 7, 8 win mark, and I think that puts them at number 8. Arkansas, I'm with you, B. I don't really believe in Arkansas, especially when if A&M is going to take a step forward, Arkansas has to beat A&M. I don't know if they do early in the season. And there are a few games head-to-head. I think the SEC West is going to be nasty as it always has been. And I think Arkansas is one of those teams that as the season wears on, they will wear out. And I see them finishing at number 9. I got Ole Miss at number 10. I think Lane is going to lane. I just think he's gonna call himself out of a few games that he probably shouldn't have. And I think they finish around that 8-4, 7-5. Again, these are 8-4, 7-5 type teams I got in here.
Yeah.
Florida. Oof. It's gonna be rough for Florida, man. It's gonna be rough for Florida. I don't see what PFF is seeing with them. I think they're going to be towards the bottom of the SEC again this year. I don't see any evidence that they take a step forward. And Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, they're not going anywhere. So I got them at 11, followed by Missouri at 12. Mississippi State is who I replaced us with. I think Mississippi State. Yeah, they return back their starting QB, but you're asking him to do something he's never done. He was more comfortable in Leach's system. Will Rogers. I don't know what this offense looks like. And you lost some of the guys that you would have needed. Not to say that they don't have any running backs behind that kid. I think we were trying to get him to come to Auburn at one point. He's now at Washington. I don't know what this team looks like. They have a lot to figure out from an identity standpoint. And even when you had that identity in place with Leach, Auburn had a shot to beat them on the road with all of our dysfunction. So
Right.
You're telling me that you're just going to flip the switch and just be higher and better than what you were? I think they take a step back. And then there's Vandy. So that's my list. Have at it, gentlemen. What are your thoughts?
See, the only thing I could really disagree with here is how high you have South Carolina.
Okay.
And the only reason I would disagree with it is I get it. They beat a couple of very good teams last year. And Spencer Rattler played well in those games. I'm not as low on South Carolina as I would have been last year, because I think by the time that they put in with Spencer Rattler, they figured out what he could and couldn't do. They gave him what do you call it when you're bowling? What, for the kids, you put the things in the gutters?
Little rails.
Yeah. They found the rails for him. Yeah, the bumpers of the rails. They found those for him, and that allowed them to do some things. But also, if you go out, when you stunt on Tennessee the way you did last season, the first half of that game before Hendon Hooker was hurt, your coaching figured something out. That's coaching. That talent's still in the building. And I think that has value. I still think South Carolina has a talent ceiling that they very well could be middle third. I'm that top 5 though. Like Texas A&M has more talent, and with a competent offensive coach, DJ Durkin's second year there from Ole Miss. I don't know, man. That means you can start for DJ Durkin, him, the defensive coordinator of Texas A&M. You can start getting in the guys that you recruited to come, not just last year's guys. You can make it your imprint, and they still have been recruiting steadily, pretty well. I think A&M has a chance to be better than South Carolina. I would switch those right now, is what I would do. I would switch South Carolina and Texas A&M, and that way your top 5 are people who you all know are talent rich, and I still think that that's going to determine what that top 5 looks like in the SEC.
South Carolina plays. Okay, I think that's fair. South Carolina plays Georgia. I think that's a loss. They got Mississippi State at home. That's a win.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee on the road. That's a loss.
Mm-hmm.
Florida comes in to South Carolina. I think that's a win. So right now we're 2-2.
It's a toss. Okay, I'm with you so far.
I got that as a win so far.
Okay.
Again, that's a tough one, but I think they can get them. On the road against Mizzou, that's going to be a tough game for them.
Mizzou's
But
defense is still good, then yeah, it'll be.
That's a tough game. I'm gonna give that to South Carolina for now. That's 3-2. On the road against A&M this late in the season, I'm not mad at that. I'm gonna give that to A&M. 3-3.
Mm-hmm.
You got Vandy,
4-3.
Kentucky at home.
That's gonna be an interesting one.
You see how close these teams are?
Yeah.
You see how close these teams are now? So it's tough. Like, again, when you get to from 5 to 7, 8-ish around in there, one game. All it takes is one game to change you from 8 to 5 or 6.
Yeah. I see it now. Their schedule is actually pretty good considering. So I see it.
If it breaks the right way, you're at 5.
But even then, I would say I give you this: you had Texas A&M beating them, but South Carolina higher.
Yeah, but A&M is in the West.
They are,
which means they have a lot of more. They have a lot of more chances to slip up than South Carolina does, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I agree with you. I see why you put South Carolina. I still put Texas A&M. I would still put Texas A&M one spot higher. But that, to be honest with you, that's my only. That's my only. I actually might put Arkansas lower than Ole Miss and Florida. I think it's going to be rough for them. And again, it's not because KJ Jefferson is awful. He's just not. I think people do this every year. They start doing this like, oh, well, he's there and he was good his sophomore year and he was. So he's going to just continue to grow and take leaps. It's like, listen, we can assume that and ask that. But when has a quarterback that had a really good sophomore year, stuck around till he was a senior, and then just blew the lid off of it? The only recent example I could think is Kellen Mond.
I wouldn't call that blowing the lid off of it.
Exactly. And that was going to be my point. Like, he did not blow the lid. Like, they just played great ball control. They had a great run game, a great defense. So he had his best season as far as protecting the ball and completion percentage because everything was set up good for you. It wasn't that he got better. The team got better and he didn't look as bad in that respect. I don't think, definitely, Arkansas is not better around KJ Jefferson. Not than they were 2 years ago. Maybe kind of sort of than they were last year. I don't know. I just know that the wide receiver talent is not there anymore. Was it Treylon Burks? Was it 2021 that was a guy? In 2022, they had Hazelwood, the offshoot from Oklahoma. He's gone. Like, the wideout talent that was there that could kind of help this run game, it's not even there anymore. So what are you going to have to keep people from just keying in on your run game and saying, all right, go now, how are you going to beat this? I don't think they have it. I don't think they have the coaching continuity or the defense to stop people either. I think Arkansas ends up 11th or 12th here in the conference after everything is said and done. I just don't think they have the horses, and unfortunately, they get their pockets picked every off season, players and coaches, and I don't know how you keep recovering from that, which is why they got worse last year. I think it continues this year.
Right.
I mean, again, I've already said I think I would put LSU at number 2 right now. And outside of that, I'm not a big Spencer Rattler believer. I don't know what Texas A&M is going to trot out there at quarterback right now. If you're going to give them, I get they've got continuity at the DC. It is a new offensive system that they're going to be trying to run. How quickly are they going to be able to implement that is the question for me with Texas A&M. I do expect that their offense to be better as the season progresses, but how quickly are they going to adapt to that new system? Of course, they're going to be talented, yet to be seen. But to your point, when you get past number 4, it does get murky, right? Like, I don't really know. I would probably say that Kentucky is going to be a little lower if I were making this list in my mind, just because I don't know that I believe that even though they've got this OC coming back, that they're going to be better offensively. From a talent perspective, I don't know a lot about what Kentucky has in that running back room, which is what the bread and butter was under that OC that you're mentioning that is coming back.
Right.
And they don't have the threat of a quarterback who can run as well. So they're not going to be doing a lot of RPO read option stuff with the QB. So they're going to have to do something different And it's going to require them to run a lot of play action stuff to be successful with Devin Leary at quarterback.
Right.
So those things are question marks for me for Kentucky, which is why I'd probably bump them a little bit lower. The Arkansas offense, in my opinion, it just can't be better this year. If it ends up being better, then that means that they figured something out in that offensive line room that is phenomenal across the board. Because as you've already mentioned, KJ Jefferson, I think, just kind of is what he is.
Yeah.
Rocket Sanders, amazing running back, right?
Right.
But they had 2 or 3 guys in that room who could get it done. I don't know what the running back depth is right now in Arkansas. I do anticipate them still being able to run the ball fairly well. But with this new system, I don't know what they're going to be able to do. If it's not going to be a drastic change, then Arkansas is probably going to be about what they were last year. I don't see them being markedly better unless they got way better in the front, in the offensive line. And defensively, did they learn how to tackle? Right? Like they were a terrible tackling team last year. Now I know T. Will is there coaching them. Is he going to turn them into a good tackling team in one off season? I don't know. Right. So, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, Florida, monstrous schedule that they have in front of them.
Their schedule is so crazy, bro.
The next couple of years, bro.
Oof.
Billy, I don't know who he
Goodness
made
gracious.
mad. I don't know if it's just their AD down there saying, man, we want to have the worst schedule ever every single season. But somebody, Florida made somebody mad.
Okay, all right. Let's look at it. Because I think they're still a talented team, but you're on the road at Utah, revenge game.
Oh,
McNeese State, that's a win. Tennessee comes to the Swamp. You play Charlotte, that's a dub. You're on the road against Kentucky. Vandy comes into town. On the road against South Carolina, toss up. Georgia, neutral field.
Loss.
Arkansas comes into town.
They can win that.
On the road against LSU.
Nah, they can win that.
On the road against Missouri.
That's still tough.
Florida State comes into town. That's how you close the season. That's a tough schedule for them.
Rough,
considering what they've lost and what they've looked like in spring, that's tough.
That's especially when you don't know. Like, I get Graham Mertz is probably going to be your starting quarterback, but listen to the words I just said. Graham Mertz is going to be your starting quarterback. Like, I understand that they're going to have a dynamic run game and they're going to do a lot of play action stuff, but it's still Graham Mertz.
Yeah.
Still Graham Mertz.
Like, you're not cutting it at Wisconsin where they all they wanted to do was run the ball. They ain't even.
It's literally the same. So this is what I'm saying. It's literally the same situation. You have a better running back, right? Like your running back room is better than what it was at Wisconsin. But Graham Mertz's performance in the Big Ten, which is a quality conference, is going to be something that you can apply here in the SEC, right? So it's not like okay, so we got a Big Ten quarterback. Of those 2 Big Ten quarterbacks, ours and theirs, which would you rather have?
Yeah, like
ours easily. Like, I think it's a pretty easy conversation to say, I think we got the better Big Ten transfer quarterback.
Yeah,
right.
I just don't know how Graham Mertz makes a huge difference for this
Pro
team.
Football Focus said that Mertz got a 75 player rating this year.
He did have a 75 player rating. Congratulations, sir. You're still mid.
Yeah,
MID. Graham Mertz. His initial, he should need, like, Mertz is in there. Maybe we need to figure out
that
how
was
to
part of their
rearrange his
notes. That was part of
it was. I read it. I read it.
Yeah.
They said he's going to have a dynamic backfield, and he had a 75 point something rating overall last year. Florida is the 20th ranked team in the country according to their power rankings, and I would take that entire evaluation and put it in the recycle bin.
Yeah,
mid.
There's some respect for what I think Florida's talent is, because I don't think they've never recruited poorly. Even in their down years, they've still recruited on par with or slightly better than Auburn has.
Correct.
They've got
what was their record last year with all of that? They didn't get talent deprived. Like, it wasn't just like all of a sudden last year they had a more talented quarterback than they will this year, in my opinion. If you tell me now, I do think that Anthony Richardson was drafted way too high. But if you tell me Graham Mertz makes an NFL roster and does anything significant in the NFL, forget where he was drafted. Forget where Anthony Richardson was drafted, because Anthony Richardson would have been drafted, right?
Right.
Right now, where do you think Graham Mertz falls on an NFL draft board?
Falls off.
Well, you got to be in it to fall off.
I don't know that he makes a draft board, right?
Yeah.
So you're telling me you're going to have that big of a drop at the talent level at quarterback? If this had been year 2 of Anthony Richardson in this system and he had time to evolve, I'd understand this, because all the pieces around him are good, right? And you're going to have a better defensive line. You're going to have the ability of year 2 in that coordinator system to get better on the defensive side. You're probably, I mean, let Kenny B tell it, you got one of the best offensive lines in the country. You're going to have a really good running back room. I'd understand putting them in the top 20 then if you had year 2 of Anthony. You can't tell me Graham Mertz is the guy and they're the 20th best power ranked team in the country. That's not going to work for me. It doesn't work for me. Not with Graham Mertz. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's tough, man. That's tough. We will definitely see. These are just predictions, by the way. So we'll definitely see how the season plays out. We're kind of months out, so we may have a few more lists like these to discuss. But great conversation. Let's give away a mug. Ike is back, so he's giving away mugs, and he's not wasting time.
Hey, man.
You'll get this mug, and you're going to like it.
Hey, listen, if you wanted the mug, you would have went ahead and put the hashtag in. That's all I'm saying, man. GWT2 Energy Consult. Dallas. I got Dallas out there repping the USC senior, as he would say.
Dallas.
West, you know what I'm saying?
Mr. Dallas, Business at the War Report. We didn't see you out here. We know you out here. Business at the War Report. Let us know. You may already have one. Who knows? But if you don't want it, let us know in the comments. Otherwise, Business at the War Report. All right, let's grab some of these comments, guys. Let's call it one. Wardam Jederick, sorry, says we are better than Kentucky and A&M. Might be.
I agree with Kentucky. I don't think they've got enough at skill positions to be as good as what I think we will be. Our running back room is better. Now, if our wide receivers are better, it will show over the course of the season. I think our wide receivers are better. And I'm not convinced that our quarterback isn't better either. I mean, it's just what it is.
I mean, Devin Leary, I think, is a quality quarterback. We wanted him here. Like, let's not split hairs about that. We wanted Devin Leary to be quarterback potentially here at Auburn. Is Devin Leary a better quarterback than Peyton Thorne? Ooh.
I think Peyton Thorne went through a few more rigors in the Big Ten than Devin Leary did in the ACC.
Yeah, I think.
And Devin Leary still didn't light it up in the ACC.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I don't know, man. Yeah, I can't wait until we start having room conversations. We're talking about like the best room in the conference. It's going to be coming up very soon.
Trust me. Yeah. So. Are we basing it off Pro Football Focus?
I mean, so Pro Football Focus will factor into it, but it will not be the sole conversation that because it's not fair to do that, right? Because you have freshmen in these rooms that won't have a PFF grade. You're going to have people who are in these rooms. I like a Holden Gerner who's taken 4 snaps in college. So his grade's not going to be super accurate. And I don't know. So yeah, it'll be factored in, but it will not be the determining factor.
Hot Dog Water has Auburn greater than A&M.
Again, we will see.
We will see.
The biggest advantage that they have is really the trenches, defensive line and offensive line over the last few seasons, especially the class that they brought in, the big class. A lot of those skill position players bolted. The defensive line and offensive line, they didn't lose as much there as they lost in other places. When that's good, it can help. It makes everything else work better. A better OC and some offensive linemen that were very highly touted that didn't bolt in the offseason. That's why I think A&M could be dangerous. We got new talent in. We got a new OC. We got new everything. It's not that we can't be better. It's just that so much is unsettled, and we just need some time to figure out if we're going to be able to put it together.
I mean, because I was about to say we can make the exact same argument for Auburn. Better OC, better offensive line. Now they have more buzzword again, continuity at their offensive line.
Right.
But that we'll definitely get to settle that one on the field.
Yeah. And I think what's been holding A&M back has just been the dysfunction on the offensive side of the ball. much like Auburn has. And the question mark is, have they found the solution in Bobby Petrino? Because again, if he's not there and you got B. Will's homeboy calling plays, oh yeah, Auburn absolutely, definitely.
Who's what now? Huh? What? I don't know.
I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. But again, if he's calling plays, I take Auburn in a heartbeat. But I don't know what A&M looks like this year. Like there's a lot of question marks. That's why I'm paying attention to that Miami game. Granted, it's the second game of the season. They may not look like much because they're still trying to figure stuff out.
It's going to be a good game for us to have to watch and get, because we're playing them 2 weeks later. So
right. So I just don't know how less dysfunctional they look on offense. I just put it to you that way. And a lot of less dysfunction on offense for A&M will help them in some of those games that they lost that were really close, in my opinion. So we'll just wait and see. Lawrence Robinson, appreciate you, man. He says, I hate Bama like MJ hated Isaiah Thomas, since we're making basketball references.
That's pretty good. I would hate Bama more than MJ hated Isaiah. I think that they had a competitive rivalry.
That's a lot of hate.
But yeah,
you're underestimating the hate these guys had towards each other. They
Jordan's
really
the pettiest man on the planet.
Hates who more? Who hates who more? Isaiah hating Jordan or Pippen hating Jordan?
I was about to say, if it were as bad as Isaiah hates Jordan, then we'd probably be in the right conversation. Because Isaiah hates Jordan a lot.
I think Jordan hated everybody though. So
that's what I'm saying. Like Jordan,
yeah, that is not saying.
I don't know that there's a bunch of people like Jordan just hated.
So Isaiah,
he was just like, I'm better than him. I'm better than him. I'm better than him. Like, why are we having this conversation? You're not as good as me, right?
So Isaiah hates him more than Pippen hates him right now.
Pippen is just being never mind.
Huh?
I'm trying, bro. I'm trying.
I almost got it.
I'm trying.
Almost got it. All right, let's move on. Phil Petway says I put us at 5 or 6 based on this.
It's not
impossible. It's really not.
I want to see them as high as they can go. You know, I'm just trying to be objective in the month of June.
And
but
listen, that will change as the season progresses. Listen, if you guys don't know, during the season, C puts out a power rankings every single week, and those numbers change of where people are ranked. Power rankings are supposed to be like that. Who is showing improvement and who's looking like they not doing so good. So we'll see.
Off script. Appreciate you being with us. He says, man, Florida should definitely be higher. I trust in Napier.
You trust in Napier? Oh, man.
You my guy. You my guy, Scotty. You my guy.
I don't distrust Napier. I think to have a steady G5 program like he had at Louisiana, you have to do something right. And I think with the talent that you get in Louisiana, it's the players. I think if you can work with that talent base, and you can definitely work with the talent base that's available at Florida. I think Florida's early struggles here have been him matching up with talent that was already there. Now here you're one step closer to, all right, y'all are more my guys, the guys who didn't want to be here left or they got drafted or whatever. It's not that I distrust him, but they got Graham Mertz. We're not really processing how mediocre he is as a quarterback. He is, I guess I gotta have somebody. You know, in the NFL, when they get like a journeyman to be the starter, when you know because you're 1 year away from drafting, because you know you're gonna tank. Like that's kind of what Graham Mertz is.
Like the Patriots when they got the kid from Bama up there playing quarterback. It's like, why?
Or when you got Carson Wentz, it's like, you're gonna trade for Carson Wentz. Watch it, like, yeah, we know, we don't really, we know he's been bad at the last 2 teams he was at, but we got to have something out here, so we just gonna reset with Carson Wentz.
Yeah, the Colts, and you want to get the oldest quarterback you could possibly have. 2 years in a row, they was like, who is the dude that's on his deathbed practically? Let him come play quarterback.
I put it to you this way: they were still hoping for Grayson McCall after spring.
For sure. Oh, for sure. Florida
that should tell you a lot.
Bro, they went and got a dude who reclassed from a sophomore and wanted to have him come be their 2023 quarterback, which I still don't understand why that dude went to Ole Miss.
His dad said he didn't want to smoke.
I understand not going to Florida, but why go to Ole Miss and what they've done with their coach, with their quarterback situation makes absolutely no sense. You went and got Spencer Rattler and Walker Howard in the offseason, and you then went and got a
Wait,
dude
Spencer Rattler. They didn't get Spencer Rattler.
I mean, not Spencer Rattler, excuse me, Spencer Sanders and Walker
Oh,
Howard
yeah.
in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got this dude who reclassed to come. Why do you have two quarterbacks now, Walker Howard and this new dude, who haven't played a snap? Like, when are they going to play football?
So I think this makes sense. I think that young dude going to Ole Miss here. What's his name that started all last year? Jackson
Dart.
Jackson Dart. Okay,
Jackson Dart will be the starting quarterback this year, which makes Spencer Sanders being there make no sense. But continue.
Exactly. Spencer Sanders is just insurance. That's all he was. He was insurance on Jackson
Spencer
Dart.
Sanders is Graham Mertz that can run.
Yes, that's exactly what he is. So he is here in case of emergency. You get hurt, right? Jackson Dart gets hurt. You got Spencer Sanders. That's it, because this is his last year eligibility anyway. All right. Both of those guys are going to be out the picture next year, and you're going to restart. You got Walker Howard, and now you got a guy who's, even if, again, he can reclass and he's going to get there this summer.
Both of them, though.
Well, Walker Howard he's got 1 year already.
Right.
So
he's a redshirt freshman.
He's a redshirt freshman. After this season, which he will not start because it's going to be Jackson Dart and Spencer Sanders, he will be a redshirt sophomore. Perfect time to start him.
Correct.
Now, and then your other guy will be a redshirt freshman. That's the 1-2 that you need. That makes the most sense to me. I mean, you can always hit the portal. But what he knew was, the dad said it, DJ Lagway was their number one. That's the guy at Florida that they were putting all their money on, literally and figuratively, to be the guy starting in 2024. You weren't going to start over Mertz this year. And if you did get a chance to get in this year over Mertz,
he'd have started over Mertz at some point in time this year.
I think that's throwing him to the wolves because he's a sophomore. Like, forget being young.
He's 17.
Oh,
right. He's a sophomore, but the boy is 17. He is supposed to be graduating from high. I started college at 17. Oh, wow. Boy, they held you back 15 times. Boy, what is you doing? You supposed to been over here in college. Boy, why is you sitting here trying to pretend like you did?
He was like 15, 16, but he went ahead and completed all his courses because he's like a prodigy or something.
He was a grown man out there still trying to play high school ball. He is Stetson Bennett out here. Boy, sit your butt down somewhere and go to college. Stop tripping, boy. Why did you take your butt down there to Ole Miss? Boy, that don't make no sense.
Man, I don't know. But I still do think that if what you wanted, if your ideal situation was for my kid, if I'm a dad for my kid, am I going to go to the place where the guy coming in is going to be 1 year of eligibility younger than my guy, but he's clearly higher talent, more highly touted, and maybe more talented? Do you want to sit behind that guy? Because if you lose that battle to Lagway in 24,
was supposed to be that dude.
It was supposed to be, but you can understand. I'm going to redshirt this year. Walker Howard's got 2 years of redshirt experience essentially, and he's going to start because at least at that point, if you believe in Lane Kiffin, you can say Walker Howard is going to get 1 year. He's going to light it up and he's out of here. He would have been 3 years out of high school, his redshirt sophomore year. If he lights it up, which is what you probably have coaches selling all the time. He's a 1 year dude.
You think that's
do I think that's going to happen?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay.
But that's better than DJ Lagway.
Don't make no sense.
That's better than DJ Lagway beating you out for that job and him having 3 years in front of you.
I don't understand why he ever went to Florida. That's not the problem. My problem is, why did you go to and this ain't me wanting him at Auburn. Ole Miss?
Yeah.
Really, sir? Did you look at the QB room?
Ole Miss.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Lawrence Robinson says Jackson Dart throws picks. Spencer Sanders getting some reps this year.
I don't know if you know this.
Spencer Sanders throws picks.
He throws picks too.
Spencer Sanders throws quite a few of them himself. So,
yeah, man. He throw them picks too. And Jackson Dart, very sneakily, he protected the ball very well in their early run when they went 7-0 early last season.
I think the thing with Dart is he'll have that one play in a game.
Oh yeah, he's going
he'll have that one, maybe 2 plays in a game where, listen, if you don't have Butterfingers, it's a pick.
Yeah, yep,
it's a pick.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, the other games, he's playing
Sanders
decent.
will do the exact same thing.
Yeah, if not worse. Christian Crawford says, C-Dub, you got Florida too low. Everyone is talking about their recent recruiting upswing might impact this year's rankings. They'll probably be 5 or 6 based on recruiting.
Yeah,
Those are two different things, though, right?
Like I get the sentiment that people are having around, the program is possibly going in the right direction. Listen,
That's
Billy's
good.
he is killing it this year in the recruiting right now, right? But
we talking about on the field.
They gonna. I said this on the Amen Corner. They gonna need every bit of them dogs when they get to that 2024 season, bro. Because
it's rough.
Ain't nothing sweet about Florida's 2024 schedule.
Yeah. He has Georgia, Alabama,
LSU, a whole recruit out of town.
Tennessee, Florida at 5, A&M at 6, Arkansas 7, Auburn 8, Kentucky 9, South Carolina 10, Mississippi State 11, Ole Miss 12, Missouri 13, Vandy 14.
It's not with Graham Mertz. Like that's it. Like their quarterback is just, hey man, carry this clipboard from here to here. He's that type of good. He is not. I am.
Hey, I'm not a believer, bro. I'm sorry.
I can't
have
believe
to prove it to me.
And that's not saying anything about Billy or what they can be going forward.
And that's not us hating, but there's a lot of Florida fans that feel the exact same way.
Oh, they absolutely feel the same way. They're riding with him because he's the guy in the seat. But they ain't nobody sitting there like, yes, we got Graham Mertz.
Right.
They sounded like daggone Charlotte fans when they announced Brandon Miller was gonna be the daggone draft pick. What are we doing? Well, I guess he's on the team now. All right, I'll go buy a jersey or something.
Darius Gillette says our defense is what has me worried.
Fair.
There's question marks there. Linebacker.
Our best defensive talent was lost on the line, and our linebackers did not play well last year. We got a lot of new faces, but they've got to put it together.
Even in the spring game, we was running that ball pretty well. So I understand how you could be kind of concerned about our run defense, which was not really good last year. So I think that's fair. That's a fair concern. We'll see what comes in year 1 of the Hugh Freeze era. Rick, appreciate the super chat. It says theory 5 through 14 will line up mostly based upon the relative strength of their top 10 transfer portal ads. Added known talent will matter to teams 5 through 14.
I think that's fair. That's fair. And you're doing less guessing with transfer than you are with high school recruits. Like you can't just say, oh, we definitely got this 4 or 5 star player coming out of high school at this position. Boom, that unit's better. Like you can do that a little more accurately with transfer because you know who they are more than you know who the high school players are. So I think that's a fair assessment, which is again why I'm high on South Carolina. They've been doing well in the transfer portal. I think they got a shot to finish 6 or 7.
For sure. Yeah, that's all I see, guys, in terms of comments here. I know a lot of people bagging on Ole Miss in the comments. We love to see it, but we're gonna have to get out of here. Ike, tell the people what they need to be doing, sir.
Just hit that join button for your boy. Come on board. $5.99 patrons, $3.99 is the supporter level. We appreciate all of you guys. We're doing film reviews once per week. Try to keep cranking these things out for y'all during the off season so you can have a better idea of what we have going into the season from a talent perspective. And not just football, but we're doing basketball film reviews as well. So make sure you guys lock in with us there. Gift the membership to somebody if you're already a member. It's super easy to do that. Somebody else can get the first month of membership on you and enjoy the benefits. If you want to listen to us on podcasts, we are the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, wherever you listen to that type of content. If you didn't get a chance to win something today, you can go to the merch store at thewarreport.com, grab something from there, and we appreciate those that continue to support with the merch stuff. And we'll continue to crank that kind of stuff out for you guys as well. One more time, in case you didn't know, get a discount with Golden's Cast Iron using code Get Your Weight Up 15% off weights. Code TW Report gets you $65 off Fire Pit and Komodo grills. Hit them up, goldenscastiron.com.
And as always, we want to shout out our show sponsors, those of them who have been supporting us. But you can support us, guys, before you get out of here by sharing this video. You can also smash the like button. These things are actually free. You can also subscribe if you're new to the channel. And we're on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at The War Report. We're also on TikTok at TW Report. Tip for now, guys, but we will see you in the morning for the morning drop. As always, y'all have a good evening.
Yes, sir.
And War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Where you go?